Today we're going to look at Saññā. Right? So let me begin with a bit of. Let's look at this, what's called a necker cube first. It's on my right hand side here, at the back. So it's in your book on page 101, SD 78, page 101. But let's just have a look. We just look at the diagram there. It's actually a flat single dimension diagram. It's got a very interesting effect on the way we look at things. It's a cube, 12 lines on the flat plane. Gaze at the red dot. If you look at the red dot, after 3 to 5 seconds, something happens. You will find that the red dot from behind goes to the front, or from the front it moves back. It can move back and forth. You notice that? Yeah. Okay, so in other words, the eye, our eyes perceive things. Yeah? Perceive means we select, we're very selective in how we look at things. Okay? So the eye is not sure, so it moves around. So there are 3 ways of looking at this diagram. One, of course, is a flat, one-dimensional diagram with 12 lines on a flat plane. Another way is the red dots at the back. Another way is the red dots in front. Okay? Now this diagram is illustrative because technically this is called binocular rivalry. In other words, because we have 2 eyes and the way we see things, the eye can make sure so give us like a choice, alternative of looking at things. In other words, when we look at the world in our daily life, things are not always what they seem to be. Right? What you see is not what you get. So in a sense, that is the essence of Saññā, perception. Perception is telling us that's how we see our world. So today, within the time we have, we're going to look at how this kind of understanding helps us to, number 1, understand how our mind works. Number 2, how to see things correctly, so to speak. And in that way, how to be at peace with ourselves. Okay, these are some of the points to look at. So this is the summary of Saññā, of perception. Yeah? Now, of course, I will explain all these things in detail. So how does perception fit into the 5 aggregates? So that's this diagram on my left. This is a bit of summary of what we have been doing so far, and what we will do today, and what we will do for the rest of this volume we are studying. We have finished the study of form. We missed the lesson. You can read the first 2 chapters. Form, of course, the body, our body, right? So form, you can see it as the 5 physical senses, or the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, wind. Right? And then there is number 1, is our body. The rest are the mind. Okay? The mind has got 4 aspects. So here, in other words, the 5 aggregates, they are mind heavy, so to speak. We study how the mind works. And this is very important because if we don't understand how the mind works, then suffering will be very strong, very bad for us. So, since we have a body, we also have feelings. Right? Feelings. Either we like something, or we don't like something, or we don't care about it. Something pleasant, comfortable, something beautiful, we like it. Something unpleasant, we don't like it. Something we have not experienced before, we ignore it, right? So this is feeling. Right? And how do we decide whether we like it or don't like it or ignore it? It's because of perception. How we remember or recognize a certain thing in front of us. Something from the past influence our current decisions. In other words, we tend to judge what happens now from our past experiences. And we see this very common in daily life, even in religion itself. How we choose Buddhism, which teacher we like, which temple we like. So, perception is a very important topic to study. Now, there's something a bit more problematic after that. For example, if we hold to an idea very strongly, greed, hatred, or this behavior or this reaction is rooted in greed, hate, or delusion. So once the kind of action grows in that way, it becomes karmic laden, karma is created. Yeah? Now, so this is what we try to prevent as far as possible, especially in meditation. We try not to go to the level where we create that karma. Of course, positive karma is different, right? So we can, for example, reflect on impermanence. We say all these negative states are impermanent. This beautiful, attractive thing is also impermanent. Or we can cultivate loving kindness. So this is a positive way of responding. So this formation means we form karma. Karma means ethically potent action. In other words, they have some kind of fruit, result. If you do something negative or bad, then the results will come back to us. We will somehow face this. Think of it as a kind of habit-forming tendency, if you like. Karma is a very tricky thing. It's not like, you do action A and then you have to face A again. It's not exactly like that. You do one wrong A, you might have to, suffer the consequences of 10 wrong A's in the future or 1,000 wrong A's. So we're talking about habits rather than numerical or practical kind of karma. For example, let's say someone has a habit of stealing, that's called karma, right? He stole something, and then nobody told him it is wrong. So he has a tendency to steal. He's going to go on doing that all his life. You see, so that's how karma works. So the idea is to stop it as early as possible. Right? So if you do loving kindness, you do it once, you're likely to do it again. That's why the Buddha sometimes say, even if you do loving kindness for as long as a finger snap, or as long as it takes to just milk a cow, and just pull the cow's udder once and it comes out for a split second, you have followed my teaching. Because once you do this loving kindness, you find what's easy, it's good, the feeling is good, and you're likely to do it again. Right? So a simple way of looking at karma is we've got to be careful of our actions because they're going to be habit forming, and if the karma is negative, the habits will be negative, and then we will not be happy. Right? So formation means we form habits, negative habits or good habits. And all this happens because of our consciousness, because we sense things through our physical senses and the mind. Alright? So now we're starting this one. So it's going to get more interesting as we progress. So anyway, if you miss the lesson, we also have tapings, recording, you can go online and watch in our Dhammakaraya website and use the book as a kind of background. So, and I would advise you to, anytime you feel like it, just study all this again, because some of these topics can be quite deep. And sometimes we understand the first time, and then you listen again, and your understanding goes deeper. Right? So, perceptions, how we see things, how we recognize things. Now, there is a very interesting diagram here on page 100. It's called parallax. You're traveling in a train or even driving in the car, you might notice this, especially in open countryside. You notice mountains far away in the distance, infinity, seem to remain unmoving. And then things nearby just flit by so fast. So that apparent difference in speed is called parallax. Actually, when you're driving out there, nothing is moving, right? It's you are the one who's moving. But the way you see things, you think the trees are moving, the lampposts are moving, Even more dramatic is this. Something I myself experienced. You sit in the MRT train, Singapore MRT train, any train for that matter, and then it's drizzling. It's easiest to notice it when the drizzle is, because normal drizzle not too heavy rain, because the rain is heavy, it's hard to see the raindrops. It's drizzle, and you just carefully look outside, glass window. When the train is stationary, the water goes straight down, perpendicular. Now as the train moves, what do you notice? The train moves slowly, then you see the rain becomes angular. And then I thought, okay, maybe the wind is blowing the rain, so it's kind of moving a bit. Then when the train is moving fast, the rainwater is horizontal. And then the train slows down again and goes back to perpendicular. I start telling myself, this is strange, that the wind can be following the train. Then I realized it's the way I perceive movement and objects outside in a moving train. Of course, the physicists, the scientists can explain all these things much better. But for us who are interested in meditation and the Dharma, we understand this as perception. How our eyes and our mind trick us. What you see is not what you get. You see this ray moving from perpendicular to horizontal, but outside, nothing's happening. It's all happening in the mind. This is the principle you must understand. In other words, we only look at surfaces, and we think, oh, that's what the thing is, by the brand, the cover, and so on. This is one way of looking at it. That is why even in the suttas, again and again, the Buddha reminds us not to be tricked by Saññā. A simple modern way of talking about Saññā in Singapore or lingo would be branding, packaging, marketing, right? Once I'm very careful buying things from Amazon nowadays because I love psychology, Buddhist psychology books. So this person wrote a book called something like Buddhist psychology. I think he knows Buddhists can be quite political, especially someone who likes Buddhist psychology. And a very nice description. So I thought, wow, this is an interesting book. My mistake was I never really know this book. Nobody had told me it's a good book or not. So someone donated the book for me. It's $100 actually. And the book came. I was so excited about it. The first thing I opened the book, the size of the letters was about like 20 points. You know how big 20 points is? It's a kind of chapter heading. Huge big letters. And not many pages. Hardcover, yes, but very few pages. And what this person has done is he has repeated whatever is written there. So we were duped. This person making $100 per book. You don't know what the topic is about, and you just pay to Amazon, and it's so troublesome to get a refund. So this is where I misjudged the book by the cover, by the title. That is Saññā. Wrong use of Saññā. Right? So in the Dhammapada, the Buddha said things like, it's not by wearing robes or shaven-headed or going around naked or what else? Wearing hair blanket, not in this external show of religiosity or holiness is someone truly holy. It's how you behave, how you act. Right? Now, this is the Buddha's advice. But to be frank with you, not many Buddhists really are aware of this teaching. Right? Very often we tend to look at someone by the uniform. If someone wears a uniform, say, oh, this is a high-ranking monk, this is a low-ranking monk, and so on. And we act accordingly. So this is a wrong attitude. This is, flowing along with the wrong perception of things. In other words, we've got to discover the teaching. So this is where the Buddha often talks about placing the teaching above the teaching. The very first teaching the Buddha gave, and also the last advice the Buddha gave. So perception, in other words, means don't be duped by what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or even think. Investigate carefully. Don't just buy the product because of the branding. Test it. Make sure it works. It's good for you. All right? So, in other words, we have virtual reality and we have true reality. Right? Virtual reality is something you generate. It's not real. We all enjoy virtual reality. It's kind of a big problem with our young people nowadays. It's a new disease. Today's newspaper has an article about students spending the whole night playing all this, gaming and social networking. Frankly, there's nothing social about these things. They just look at your screen. So they spend the whole night doing this, and next day, if they do go to school, they fall asleep in class. And this is a new problem with this. In fact, there's a small war going on in our own family, two kids, but to really be strict with them about this. Thankfully, they're quite responsive. And we got to defer, we got to say no, because they know their parents can be kind enough, so they push hard enough to play tantrum, so the parents might give it, so we try not to. So this is where, if we get in there in the future, the kids are struggling, we have to be there. So here is the struggle between virtual reality and true reality. In meditation, we are often reminded to distinguish between these two. Right? We do make use of virtual reality, for example, in loving kindness meditation. But in breath meditation, we try to go straight into true reality, present moment awareness. We use the breath. You watch the breath coming in, going out, that's happening right now, and you're looking at it, that is true reality. But one thing you have to know, something very interesting, if you really want to be very strict about the nature of reality, as long as you're not awakened, you'll never experience true reality. Even in breath meditation. Because when you watch the breath, you say in, out. Huh? But the scientists know that you take about 25 milliseconds to recognize something. So by the time you say in, the breath already passed that point. When you say out, the breath also passed that point already. So you are talking about something that's already happened, so it's not really the truth. There's a bit of difference in time, you know what I mean, right? But of course, for beginners, we just, if you take the distance, the window is a bit generous, so to speak, so we still regard it as present moment awareness. So to some extent, it does help, actually the breath. To a great extent, it does help. Because it's much better than, say, letting your mind run wild. So breath meditation is helpful because it helps your mind focus. What about loving kindness? Loving kindness, we use some kind of virtual reality, our memories. Something happy and we think about it, and then some people might say, we just cycling ourselves being happy. But it's better than cycling ourselves being sad and suicidal. So we're using this tool to be happy. We remember happy memories and we build it. But that's only the first step. Because once you really feel happy, then you don't need those memories and words anymore. You just let go of all the words, you only focus on the feeling, the joy and the peace, without thinking. Once you let go of thinking and you feel, then the perception gap is much more close. In other words, you are more close to reality. You feel the joy, you feel the breath. When you feel the breath, that means you do not use language anymore. You don't say in, out, don't need to say it anymore. You know the breath is coming in, you know the breath is going out, you know you are happy in loving kindness meditation. No need to say any more things. But when you say a word, it's an action, You say, nearly well. There's quite a lot of words, And then you say in, out, time is involved. So when the moment you say the thing, there is a space between what you say and the reality that's happening. So if you sit calmly and you just feel it, it comes closer. So what's the benefit of this closing the gap of perception? Joy rises if you can close this gap. It's like there's a storm outside the house and the cold is coming into the windows. So once you start closing all the windows, you have this nice warm snug feeling inside the house. So when you close the gap of perception, you have this wonderful joy inside you because you are seeing true reality in a happy and good way. The false reality, the virtual reality do not trouble you anymore. So this is a kind of quite an intense, interesting way of looking at meditation. Now, if you have any question anytime, you can stop me, because sometimes some of this topic can be a bit quite deep.
Sorry, I still don't quite get it, closing the gap.
Okay. It takes a bit of time when you watch something and then you name it. Right? Another way of explaining this is, when you look at the stars at night, there's astronomers who tell you the light of the stars that you see has left that star millions of years ago. So actually the star is no more there. But this light is traveling through space, great distance, millions of light years ago, and then you see it. But what you see actually is an event that's already gone millions of years ago.
How does closing the gap?
Closing the gap, that means you see the breath. For example, if I watch the breath, and then I say in, or by the time I say in, that means must have happened is probably in the past. So there is a bit, not much, a bit of gap, but it's still a small gap. They're not too bad, but the reality is there's still a gap. On the other hand, if I don't use any words, I know the breath is coming in, I feel it, then I don't need to use words. That means I save the time there, so to speak. You know, I feel it directly. I feel the breath directly.
So how is closing the gap
That
lead
means
to ultimate reality or happiness or joy?
closing the gap, that means you are more aware of it almost immediately as it happens. You don't take time to use words or anything like that.
And that leads to joy?
That leads to joy because language is no more there. Because language takes away our attention in a very important way. So when you experience reality directly, you feel joyful. That is the basic idea. Okay? Now the next point, page 102, when we talk about perception, we also talk about nama and rupa, naming and form, name and form. It's very interesting way of looking at name and form. Now, Buddhist psychology just started in TMC, and we were talking about name and form yesterday also. Now, when you meet someone new, especially, let's say, in a very important business meeting, which you are involved in, and you need to know people, well, the first thing you want to know is that when you talk to someone new is the person's name. If the person doesn't give you his name, you have this uneasy feeling, who's this person? It's very hard to place this person. Or if the person doesn't give his name accurately, just say, my name is Paul, or John, or Tan. Millions of Tan, right? So you wondering, who's this person? You can't place this person in your mind. So human nature is such that naming is very important to us, especially in Chinese culture. Naming is so important. So you find that in a family, they're very careful never to, number one, not to use any characters of their parents or grandparents or their predecessors within living memory. They try not to use the same word. It's taboo, right? So they will have to choose a kind of unused middle name, last name. Only the surname is the same. And of course, the various other traditions about names. So those names are very important to the level of being superstitious, even if you like. Because to them, see, the Chinese language is very different from the language we are using here, English language. English language is alphabetical. You use characters and form words. But the Chinese language is pictographic. Each character has a meaning of its own. So in that sense, it's a more difficult language to learn for people like us. So what happens in the pictographic language is that, in Chinese anyway, and Chinese-based languages like Japanese, Korean, the word is the thing. If you do linguistics, people often say that the expert will tell you the word is not the thing. Something we're talking about now. Okay? The word is the thing means what? For example, to the Chinese, when they write the word for, they might even come to the point that they believe that that is actually the Buddha. In a sense, this is called a fictitious idea in psychology. They actually believe that word is the thing. So to an extent, I remember when I was very young, my mother would tell me, never to step over Chinese characters on the floor. I don't know whether in our tradition, I think it's a dying thing, not because our children is nowadays, they can be bothered, Do not step over Chinese characters. My understanding, of course, is respect for learning. I wouldn't even step over an English book for that matter, not just Chinese book. I mean, to me, it's such a sacred thing, and it's knowledge, So I never have an idea of stepping on it or sitting on it. I mean, I tell myself, okay, it's meant for the head, so we need to put our foot on it, right? So the idea here is a perception of language as sacred because it gives us knowledge and so on, right? And of course, when you write this word on the shrine, it actually becomes sacred. So this is very interesting how perception explains some of how Chinese Buddhism, the characteristics of Chinese Buddhism, for example. In fact, yesterday we were talking about, someone asked about what's the Chinese word for sutra, sutta or sutra. The Chinese word is qing, okay? But the word qing is already there in China even before Buddhism came. Qing translates as classic, a classic, an important work by the scholars, by the great teachers, which are the staple syllabus that students would use in the ancient Chinese education. So they use this word qing for the sutra. Now this is a really great compliment that Chinese have given to Indian Buddhism, because to accept Indian Buddhism sutras as qing, that means they take this as classic, as a Chinese classic. They accept a foreign teaching as their own. That's a good thing. That's how Buddhism became one of the three religions in China. And other religions, somehow Islam, Christianity, never enjoyed that privilege, even up to today. But that creates a problem also. Because once the Chinese see the sutras as qing, they treat the sutras just like qing. Meaning, they can also write their own. So you got Qing Gang Jing, you got all these other qings, and all this. The moment they add the qing at the end, it becomes sacred, etc. So this is one of the problems, that we say, how come the Buddha never spoke on the Dhamma Sutra, the Qing Gang Jing, or the Avatamsaka Sutra, all those Mahayana Sutra, they was not spoken by the Buddha. But the writers wrote it as if the Buddha is speaking. Of course, here is where you study literature to understand what's at work here. So we won't worship some sutras. We understand the tales of sutras. We're not saying they are useless. They are great works of Chinese literature. And they do describe the developments of thinking and culture in a certain period. But they are not Indian Buddhism of the Buddha. And that we have to, that reality is very important for us to accept and distinguish. So, in other words, what are we looking for in Buddhism? If you're looking for literature, you want to understand philosophy, all these texts are fine. But if you want peace of mind, you want meditation, then it's best to go to the sutras of the Buddha in the Indian context. So perception is how we look at the surface, how we look at the worldly expression of truth, and also what are you looking for in life. Yeah? So this is where we've got to be aware of this, how we look at things, how we conceive things, how we perceive things. What's the difference between conception and perception? Conception is the ideas you form in your head. Perception is how you judge, how you recognize things outside of you. Right? So this I mentioned for the pages. Now next thing we've got to be aware of is how our senses work, how the mind works. Yeah? So once again, let's have a quick look at this diagram here. So you have the body here, and this is the mind. Yeah? Now, our five senses experience sight, sound, smell, taste, touches. Even right now, you're experiencing that you can hear me, for example. And you understand what I'm saying, mostly I'm sure. Now, if this is the only thing that happens, we have no problem, What you see is what you get, what you hear is what you get, what you smell is what you get, no problem. Okay? Direct experience. But you can believe me, all such experiences are not like that. When you see something, the mind will process it. The mind will make sense of it. The mind will decide you're going to like it, you don't like it, or ignore it. The mind is going to create something else. It is just like, you meet somebody, sometimes you look at this person, you say, oh, I like this person. For some reason, I like this person. Sometimes I meet people, they tell me, oh my goodness, it looks like our uncle, and so almost immediately you have this connection. Not because I'm Piya, it's because I look like your uncle. So it is a past connection, right? Or someone might come along and say, I don't like this guy. He reminds me of my ex, it was so terrible, And there you are. So I suffered the fate of the ex also. So we tend to project our past or our conditioning to the present. This is problematic. In fact, if you understand this and you don't fall trap into such situations, a lot of marriages will be happier, a lot of relationships will be better. So that's why it's very useful, very important to understand the nature of perception. Yeah? So here, sense impression. So in meditation we say, when you see something, that's just seeing. When you hear something, that's just hearing. When you smell something, it's just smelling. Very familiar, right? The basis of satipatthana, in fact. So this is where the Buddha is telling us, go back to the basics. So this is where you go back to the basics. That's all. Do not impose values on it. Do not make it more than it is. If you make it more than it is, then it's called a problem. Who makes it more than what it is? It's our mind. So on the mental level, you have what is called mental impressions. I'm using simple terms. Mental impression means you start putting values on it. I like this guy, I don't like this guy. Oh, this teacher, very enlightened. Now some people like to say, they come to meditation class and say, wow, you must have attained very high levels. Huh? And I reply, I say, wow, you are probably higher than me. Because if you're not higher than me, how do you know I attained such a high level? You know what I mean? Right? So we like to judge people. So this is perception, basically. So what the Buddha is saying, look at the present thing and look at it for what it is. It's either something you see, something you hear, smell, taste, or touch. That's all there is. And look at it that way and work from there. If you can do that, then you can deal with reality more directly, effectively. So that is the basic idea of meditation. Take for example, let's say, remember yesterday I told this simple story about, had this Sunday school story, it's a real story actually. I was a mom at that time, about 30 over years ago. This young girl comes along crying, says, I'm very upset. So I asked why you're upset. She said, this B called me an idiot. She's so upset, the little young school girl. And then I remember in this case, this pretty girl has got an admirer, another boy called A. Yeah, I told her, I said, I remember A also called me an idiot once. And you didn't get upset. Then she looked at me and said, A is different, I like A. Now what does that tell us? A likes me, so A calls me an idiot, I don't get upset. B I don't like, B calls me an idiot, I get upset. It's the same word. So how do we apply this teaching? It's just a word. But in fact, what I told her, in a sense, I'm teaching her a bit of satipatthana already, you know what I mean? I told her, look, it's just a word, but this person you don't like, you get angry with him. But this person you like, you feel okay about it. So why can't you use loving kindness and treat both of them equally in your mind? May they both be well and happy. Then the problem is solved. So this is one way how we use this understanding to remove unnecessary suffering. I don't think there's something called necessary suffering. Anyway, any kind of suffering. Okay. Alright, so that is conceptual. It's also called conceptual impression. The one is called sense impression. You can look at page 104 and 5. Okay? Okay, next one is about how people communicate. So I hear a lot of people telling things, especially in a marital situation, young couples especially. Now one thing about old couples, if you can survive long marriage, especially after 50, after 60, you find no problem in marriage. Number two, you're not intending to marry again anyways. Next thing is, we often don't hear very well, and that helps a lot. So we're happier that way. You can say what you like, doesn't matter. So we just sit back, watch the sunset, we're very happy. Right? But young couples, really serious problem. Every word is measured. And a big debate. So one of my tasks is, if I know people well enough Buddhism, I tell them, you have a problem, please come to me first. Talk about it. Do not start proceeding with your divorce stuff and start quarreling. It's very stupid. Because if you start marrying again, you could have the same situation anyway. The problem is not with the other person. The problem is inside us. Deal with that, then you have a happy relationship. So people can say things, but we got to ask the person, what do you mean when you say this? Okay, here we have a very funny story. I like this kind of stories on page 106. We can say something, but what's the meaning of it? So we're talking about meaning. Meaning of meaning, okay? This is a beautiful children's story. Actually, believe me, it's Alice in Wonderland, although it's written for children, it's not really a children's book, you know. It's when adults can enjoy it also on a higher level. The writer, by the way, was a mathematician. So he's writing this story from a logical point of view. He's making fun of logic in a way. Very, very witty look at logic, and very humorous also. So here you have Humpty-Dumpty, and Alice meets Humpty-Dumpty. So Humpty-Dumpty talks about glory, and this poor little girl doesn't understand this. So I'm going to read to you this excerpt, page 106, figure 2.3. I don't know what you mean by glory, Alice said. Humpty-Dumpty smiled contemptuously. Humpty-Dumpty looked down at Alice and said, "Of course you don't, till I tell you. I meant there's a nice knockdown argument for you." Then Alice retorts and said, "But glory doesn't mean a nice knockdown argument." And Alice objected. Then comes a famous remark. Humpty-Dumpty says, "When I use a word," Humpty-Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, "it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less." Then Alice says, "The question is," said Alice, "whether you can make words mean so many different things." "The question is," said Humpty-Dumpty, "which is to be mastered, that's all." Right? All right. You see, especially in Dharma talks, you find teachers, speakers say a lot of things. And sometimes we never ask questions, just go back and say, "Oh, you know, that's what the teacher said." And another thing, we don't hear the complete teachings. You know, remember this famous joke, monastic joke? The problem is this joke, I told this before here, I'm sorry I'm not telling you. You got to understand it in Thai. So I'm trying to, you know, transfer the meaning into English. I hope you can follow me. Yeah? Okay, so there's this rich young boy. He's not very religious, very playful. So the concerned father says, "Please go to the temple, listen to Dharma talk." This boy said, "I want to go." "You don't go to temple, sir. No more, you got to sit down, your legs sideways. You know, this Dharma talks are very long. Then I'll dirty my nice clothes, you know. And after that, if the monk knows me well enough, you know, he's asking for donations. So I don't want to go. And moreover, I waste my time. I'd rather spend my time with my friends. You know? So the father is very worried this young boy might end up becoming a hooligan. So he bribes the boy and says, "Okay, today is Sunday. You please go to the temple, sit down there, and just listen 5 minutes. Listen 5 minutes to the sermon, the discourse. I'll give you 100 baht." Okay? Those days, 100 baht, not money. So this boy goes there. He sits down and listens. And that day, of course, the teacher is talking about the 5 precepts. Right? Now, in Thai, we say, "Kan kaksa kadi, kan kamoy, lo kamoy kadi." This word kadi, it means, it can mean these two. Right? These two. In other words, you will join up a list of things you're going to say. This one, this one, this one. Okay? Kadi. Yeah? But you see, the word di also means good. So you can also interpret kadi means also good. This is a problem with the Thai language, the nuance of it. And this is where the fun of language of literature comes in, where a word can have two senses. So this one listens says, "Kan kasat kadi, kan nakamai kadi," and so on. In other words, the teacher is saying, whether it is stealing, whether it is killing, whether it is stealing, whether it is adultery, that's the meaning, you see. But what he hears is, killing is good, stealing is good, because kadi means also good, you see. So he goes back home with his father. The father said, "Have you heard the sermon?" Say, "Yeah, 5 minutes." I said, "Well, I like this sermon, I like this mother. He says wonderful thing." "What did he say?" He said, "Oh, killing is so good, Stealing also good. So he didn't hear the last line. The last line says, all these you should not do. Now this style is often found in the sutras, the Pali style. So in a sense, the Pali Thai discourse or Thai literature is influenced by Pali. So in Pali, the Buddha will list things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all these don't do. The most important line is last. Like in English, we normally will put it first. Do not do these things, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in Pali teaching, normally the Buddha would mention something familiar to you first. So here you learn that humorous monastic humor, you see. So this young man perceived wrongly the teaching because he chose to interpret it in his way. He didn't hear the last part. So he put into a real life situation. Very often we don't hear what people say, especially in a very tense and domestic situation. We get upset easily without finding out what's going on. And after we're too proud to admit a mistake or apologize. Right? So I had quite a tense moment with my kid yesterday. A simple thing is, my wife Rana says, please wash the dishes. Oh, they've learned self-management, self-reliance. Learn to say no. They said, no, I won't do it. But in a sense, in my heart, I said, okay, it's great, this boy has learned to say no. But not washing dishes is a bit of a problem, because they will eat and so on, and nobody washes dishes. They'd rather play a computer game, they walk up and down, play with the cats, that is not right. So I told myself, how am I going to stress this point? So I'm using perception now. So now he's going to SP Pauline. So I said, I'm sorry, since you don't cooperate with us, we can't give you the computer. You get your money and buy it. So we can't do that. So to cut a long story short, that brought a little small panic. And he says, oh, that means I can't study, I can't go to Bali already. So what do I do? I'm going to look for a job. And I said, okay, don't make it bigger than it is. I said, all that I'm asking you is please wash dishes. So don't misperceive it, don't make it bigger than it is. So actually it's just lazy. So my idea is to make him see things a bit deeper. So he says, why can't you just tell me directly? You wash dishes. Well, that's what I did, actually. So I told him, I said, then he said something, it's like a way out, He said, why don't you tell me nicely? I said, okay, I'm telling you nicely now. Can you please wash the dishes? And I said, look, why don't you just wash the dishes? Then you get on your computer and all this problem are gone. It's as simple as that. And I said, okay, so you put it like that. I said, wow, phew, it worked. It worked. So this is where we have to understand how people think and try to reset with them, so to speak. Okay? And when they're teenagers, it's very difficult because some parts of them are already mature, some of their thinking, but some are really still in the past. So we have to be very tolerant, very careful, very diplomatic, at the same time skillful. But as long as you have love and you have skillful means, you're concerned, things should be alright. It's just a little uncomfortable. Matter of time, 1 more month, he's in college and he'll be a different person. So this is something we got to always look ahead a bit and don't see too much darkness in the passing cloud. Alright, so that's Humpty-Dumpty. So when someone says a word, remember, these words can mean many different things. That is why sometimes I like to ask the Buddhists, okay, you like the sutta, but what happens to you? I've had people coming to me and say, hey, have you heard of the Heart Sutra? I say, yes. Wow, this Heart Sutra is very powerful. I said, what do you mean powerful? Has your life changed? Are you wiser? And then she comes to life by it, not just go around saying, wow, I know this Sutra. So like listing badges, Heart Sutra, Anna Sutra, Mangala Sutra. You have no more space to list these badges. So the idea is, you have to your life must change, right? So here, in terms of perception, Saññā, a word has at least 3 kinds of meaning. This is on page 107. 3 dimensions or usages of words. Number 1, you got the dictionary meaning, lexicographical meaning. Dictionary meaning. Dictionary meaning are helpful for primary school children, for spelling bees, that's fine. Then you start there, of course. We need to know meaning of words in the dictionary. Then second meaning, stipulative meaning. This is the Humpty-Dumpty meaning. I use a word the way I understand it, right? For example, the Chinese, they like to use the word Buddha quite freely. Can you imagine they call a Tibetan monk slash a Tugu a living Buddha in Chinese? We don't have such words in Pali or Sanskrit. And in English, living Buddha, it just doesn't make sense. It's a terrible contradiction. In fact, it's the wrong view. It's really very bad to say living Buddha. In other words, we are downgrading Sakyamuni Buddha. We are saying there's a Buddha in his own dispensation because we are still living in living memory of Sakyamuni Buddha. So to say there's another Buddha is very serious wrong view. So, but to the Chinese, for simply means like arhat, like a saint. So, but not many people think that way, unfortunately. So that's why sometimes because of language, serious wrong views are sustained, and you find nothing happens to the person when he becomes a Buddhist, and it's easily converted by others. That's the danger. Okay. Number 3 is called contextual meaning. This one, you see this in suttas. For example, the word sankhara, in different contexts can mean different things. Even the word Saññā, different contexts can mean different things. For example, in certain contexts, Saññā can mean consciousness also. So this is where some, as parents, sometimes you get very angry, you scold your children. This is found in the commentary, isn't it? The commentary says, parents might scold their children and say, if the children are naughty, parents say, may the devil catch you, may the yakshas eat you. But in their hearts, parents will never even think of that. These children get angry, they say those things like to stress the wrongness or what. Right? So this is where we may use words, but we got to make sure what's the meaning of it. Right? So that's why, especially when you write reflections, literature, you find what's so beautiful about literature? You bring new meanings to the words. You make the words beautiful by telling stories behind it. So it's a living experience, not just dead letters. Dead letters are like road signs, Dunyan Road, or Shepherd Road. That's all. They just tell you direction. But if you say Buddha, you say Dharma, you say Khandas, they have deep meanings. The word goodness, and so on. So, our task as Buddhists, in other words, is to go through all the different levels of meanings of, if possible, of all these words. And the more you can understand this, the richer your life will be, in other words. So this is why if you are stuck with one level of belief, that's all there is. Then you're going to become a fossilized Buddhism. So your mind doesn't change. But some people will say, oh, I believe in this, I believe in Kuan Yin, I believe in merit making, that's it. Of course, it's okay to believe in these things, but you've got to go beyond that. You've got to understand, for example, how merit works. What does Kuan Yin represent? How do I practice all these qualities? Then, really, the idea, understanding of Kuan Yin, merit making has worked for us. Not to take it like a fossil. That's the meaning. It's a living tradition, not a dead teaching. Now here's a very funny example here, where words can play tricks on us. We hear some teacher say something, oh, Buddhism is a secret teaching. You say, oh, secret teaching, and then you want to join this group because you want to be a secret member, and get power, for example. But then, if you ask this teacher, after the talk long enough, then comes the clincher, as we say. The teacher will say, oh, you ask teacher, what do you mean of secret? The teacher will say, we are ignorant of it, it is always secret to you. I say, oh, no, nothing special about that, right? They think a secret teaching means you can become very powerful, that you become Superman or something. But these are words the teacher used to explain the difficulties of understanding certain deep teachings. Take, for example, this page 107. You have this sign, rather there's this, someone said this, the lobster at 18 is about to blow a fuse. I can also say, the chicken at 18 is about to blow up. Now what does this mean to us? Any idea when you first look at this? It doesn't seem to make sense, right? How can a chicken, how can a lobster get upset? But if I tell you, these words were spoken by waiter A to waiter B in a restaurant. Does it make sense now? It makes sense better, right? You know what waiter A is saying? The lobster that was served at table 18, something's wrong there, and the customer is going to get upset. So he says, the lobster at 18 is going to blow a fuse, right? Because it's raw or something. So we tend to talk in code sometimes, especially around Buddhists. So we talk in code and outsiders don't understand. We've got to be very careful, then they can't connect with us, So we have to talk simple. Of course, I think that's one reason why people are scared of Sutta class. We do sometimes, I do sometimes talk in codes. One reason we talk in codes is to expedite things. Notice these waiters, they talk quickly because they want to save time. They are very effective and they cut down on economic words. So this is when you must know when to use economic words and when to spell out things like that. Of course, one way out is, welcome questions. Ask me a question when you don't understand. Questions remove doubts. It's closest to gaps. So speech, in other words, is just not a matter of words. It is very importantly a measure of intention, meaning. What do you mean by these words? So very important to ask people, what do you mean when you say this? What's the meaning of these words? Otherwise, you will perceive the wrong things. And very often the Buddha also talks in codes to people whose intelligence or spirituality are of a higher level. Take this interesting passage on page 108 from Dhammapada 348. Let me tell you the story first. This is a story of Ugasena. Ugasena is an acrobat. Actually, he was a rich young man. One day he went to the market, there was a circus being performed in the market. He saw this beautiful young girl doing acrobatic acts. And he fell in love with this girl. Oh, this is the making of a beautiful Hindi movie, okay? So this young man falls in love with this beautiful young female acrobat. So how better to get near her than becoming an acrobat himself? So he trained himself up to be an acrobat also, and makes friends with this pretty female acrobat. And they got married, very happy together, and they were going around performing these acrobatic shows together. Then comes along the Buddha. Okay, he's going to spoil things. So because this Ugasena, the acrobat, the man, his mind has reached such a level of maturity, of spiritual maturity. In other words, given the right teaching, he will awaken. By the way, this is very interesting. It often happens around your mid-30s to mid-40s. This is the time when the Buddha left the world. Very often I notice that people come to my courses, they are around that age. But that's the time we're looking for meaning. And it's a time when we ask all these basic questions in life. What do I do with my life? What's the meaning of life? So Ugasena was performing. And the Buddha chose a very poignant and crucial time. This acrobat was standing on his head on the top of this high bamboo pole. Imagine, his voice upside down, balanced. And here comes the Buddha. The Buddha actually earlier sent a message to him saying that the Buddha himself will come and see the performance according to the commentary. So he's very happy that he's given extra zest to this performance. So there he was standing on his head, high on the pole. The Buddha comes near and stands below the pole. And the Buddha gives him a special teaching. This is the teaching the Buddha gave him. Imagine the scenario first. This Ugasena, the acrobat, is upside down, standing on his head, hands stretched out like that, legs up. And he hears this beautiful spiritual voice. Let go of the front, let go of the back, let go of the middle. Crossing over to the far shore, with the mind released from everything, do not undergo birth and decay. And zap, you got enlightened. Just like that. Oh, but this happens in the commentaries. Just by saying alone, this man got enlightened. I'm not going to go into doctrinal details. They just say this word somehow, maybe at least brought streaming into this Ugasena. But imagine, how does this word work on Ugasena? Then it was poised upside down, And when he hears this word, just at the right time, let go of the front. Here's let go of the front. Let go of the back. Here's let go of the back. Let go of the middle. How do I do that? Like, you need to, somebody to support the head, for example. So suddenly you find yourself like in a vacuum. And then came this new knowledge. So you realize something deep. What he realized is of a different level of meaning. The Buddha is not talking about physical space. The Buddha is talking about inner space. The Buddha is talking about wisdom. Let go of the front means what? Don't worry about the future. Let go of the back. Don't worry about the past. But let go of the middle. Don't worry about the present either. Because the moment you look at the present, it's already gone. It's all moving very fast. Look at our clock. We just started 11 o'clock and now it's already 1 hour has passed. Right? And crossing over to the far side means when you are in Nirvana, the mind is free from everything. And we no more go through suffering. So this, the aggregate understood. But no one else got enlightened. Because they didn't understand what the Buddha was saying. So this is where, that's why what we're preparing now, when studying all the suttas and so on, we're preparing our minds with the vocabulary of the Dharma. One day this will happen to us. So my understanding is, Ugasena didn't suddenly got enlightened merely by what the Buddha said. He was a man of deep spirituality himself, maybe in a past life, maybe in this life, he has been doing meditation, and all he needed was the right person to say the right words at the right time, and then gets it. Now, I've noticed this in counseling. Usually in counseling, someone will come along and we spend about an hour, or maybe more than an hour, and then at the end of the day, this person be happy, smiling, and knows what to do. There was one occasion, and I'm very happy this one occasion happened, and normally I think in the life of a counselor, this thing can happen only once. This person sits down and says, okay, I see what's the problem. He tells me the problem, and he goes on explaining to me, talking about the problem. And then I just patiently just ask a simple question to make sure I understand it better without adding any new things. And before 15 minutes, his face lit up and he said, now that I'm talking to you, I think I know what to do already. I've solved the problem. So in fact, I did nothing. All I did was just listen. And this person said, I know what to do. And in fact, this is the basic principle in counseling. In counseling, we facilitate, we encourage the person to talk clearly so that the person can look at the problems himself and he's the best person to find a solution. But we do not know what the problem is, so we're just like a referee. So in this case, I suppose the problem is not bad enough because he didn't tell me exactly what it is, and I don't remember either. The important thing is the person says, I know what to do. So it's just like Ugasena or many other great arahats. The Buddha just said a few lines and they understood. This is called a quick learning. So if you have the suttas, you understand the sutta, you understand the Dharma, there's so many Dharma speakers, Buddhist speakers nowadays. You sit in the audience and listen, you can know the speaker, is he telling something profound or just something not really of much value, and it's just wasting our time, in a sense making fool of the audience also. Entertaining, but not educating. Right? So you can know. So this is where the Buddha says teaching the Dharma is a very sacred, very important task. The speaker must say words treasured, words that change our lives, words that make us happy. Not words that promote a particular group, or even a particular teaching. The words should change our lives. When you leave the Dhamma hall, you say, I think I know what to do in my life. I forgive all those people I hated. I'm happier than the Dhamma talk has been really adult. Now there's one more interesting example here of how language sometimes appears to be deep, but certain people understand it. Because some aspect of the Dhamma is so deep, certain words, especially used by the Buddha, is able to convey this meaning. Okay, let's look at this story of the weaver's daughter of Alavi. Alavi is a place in India. This is a young girl, but this young girl, she's very spiritually mature, and I think usually the Buddha will go to people whose death are impending. So the Buddha will appear to them to help them to awaken before they die. So this is what happened here, page 108. The Buddha has given a public talk to the big crowd there, and this girl is like somewhere at the back of the crowd. She is very intelligent. So at one point, the Buddha looks at her, gazes at her, and she's able to understand. She knows now that the Buddha actually is directing her to come forward. So she comes forward. She comes up to the teacher, to the Buddha. Then, this is the conversation the Buddha has with her. Okay? So, can you see that? Page 108. The Buddha says, "Where do you come from, young girl?" And the girl replies, okay, this is where I'd like you to read to me the reply. That way it's a bit more dramatic, shall we? Okay, I'm going to read the Buddha's line and you read to me the girl's line, alright? Where do you come from, young girl? Where are you going? Do you not know? Do you know? Does it make sense to you?
No.
Doesn't make sense at all, right? But it makes perfect sense to this girl. And then the commentary explains to us. Okay? The 4 questions. These are called the 4 questions. That is a very famous, so they're called the 4 questions. Okay, the first, the Buddha asks, where do you come from, young girl? So this guy is very intelligent. He says, the Buddha asked me, where do I come from? Now we know Buddhas are great teachers. He didn't call me up for a chit-chat, you know. I mean, he's not the kind of person who goes into small talk. And he knows very well, I come from the village here. So when he asks me, where do you come from, he's not asking, where's my kampong? And that's small talk, you know. So he must be meaning something deeper. So this is a very intelligent girl. So she knows, he says, the Buddha means, where were you before you were reborn here? Right? So the Buddha is asking her, where do you come from, young girl? In other words, what was your previous life? So she didn't know. So she says, I don't know. Notice that, right? And the next question, where are you going? Again, she said, the Buddha is not into small talk. I don't think he means, where am I going to go after this talk? Maybe he knows I'm going to cut my father in the farm. So what would he mean in the higher level? Meaning, where will you be reborn? Do you know where you will be reborn after this? He says, I know not. He doesn't know, you see. So the Buddha knows what he's talking, and the girl also knows what the Buddha is talking. And then the Buddha says, do you not know? This is a bit tricky, right? So the meaning is, do you know that you will surely die? And then the girl says, oh, that I know, yes. Right? So he says, yes. And then the last question, do you know? So in other words, do you know when you will die? And the girl says, I know not. So this girl understood what the Buddha was saying, and she attained the wisdom eye. It was at least 3 minutes at the time. Okay? Now this happens when a teacher and people are close in Dhamma wise. So the teacher only says short things, and the students they don't understand. In other words, here again, the discourse gap becomes closer. Less words, more wisdom. So if you're a beginner, more words, less wisdom. So slowly the word gap will close, and the wisdom gap opens up, something like that. Yeah?
Can I just say the third line, I think this clarification, that should be do not know.
And do you know not? Don't you know? Yeah, don't you know also can. I should put the Pali words first.
Yeah, either you say don't you know or do you not know. Because otherwise it will become do you know. The third question.
You mean, do you know? Do you know?
The 4 lines you put there, where the first line is where were you before you were born.
Okay.
But the third line is
do you?
Should it not be do you not know?
Oh, do you not know that you will surely die?
Yeah, because that's what the Buddha said to me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you paraphrase it.
Okay, sure, lawyers analysis should be respected. Okay, I'll check the Pali. Yeah, it sounds a bit more clear. Do you not know that you will surely die? Okay, sounds better, huh? Okay, I'll check the Pali. Thank you. So, in other words, now, the crowd doesn't understand what the Buddha was saying or what this girl was answering, you know. Why? Because the crowd listens conceptually. The crowd takes the meaning of the words on the word meaning, dictionary meaning. It doesn't think of the contextual meaning, doesn't listen carefully. Right? Sometimes the boss will tell you, get this job done. And then the intelligent worker will think, okay, I think I know what to do. The other one doesn't know what to do. Right? So you've got to think. This boss, how does he think? What does he mean by this instruction? Especially bosses don't talk much, they just give you short instructions, right? So, yeah.
When they converse, what language do they converse in?
All the dialects, the local dialect of that area, Alawi. So,
Magadhi, is it? We spoke mostly Magadhi.
yeah, mostly Magadhi, but I'm not sure where Alawi, whether it's Magadhi or not. What are dialects? Not Pali. Pali is not spoken language. Not Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the language of the priests. Like we all don't speak Oxford English, you know. We speak Singlish, you know. Some dialects, I learned into Singlish. Yeah? So it's a dialect. So, okay. So in other words, we must not listen merely to the word level. We've got to ask ourselves, what is the teacher trying to say? What's the meaning of this teaching? What's the meaning? Meaning means, what does this sutta, this teaching tell you about yourself? What does it tell me about myself? Or what do I learn from this? And next thing is, how do I apply this to my daily life so that I'm happy, I'm at peace with this? And so these are the things you must ask to make the teaching alive and we benefit from it. Any questions? Now, okay, the next one also is another very interesting look at language. We all have opinions, right? We like to label things. I like this teacher because this, I don't like the teacher because that. Yeah? So we have to understand how people use words. And we've got to understand labels. Because for example, some people may say, oh, Vipassana very good. Or Zen even better. Or Dzogchen is the best, something like that. But you've got to know, what do we mean by these terms? We're just talking about terms only, but we never even experienced this thing. And then you're a meditator, I'm sure your friends have told you, oh, don't meditate, I'm very dangerous, you know. You might go crazy. The first thing you've got to ask is, what's the first thing you should ask here? Meditation is dangerous. You can go crazy. What basic question you've got to reply in this case? One simple question is, what do you mean by meditation? What meditation are you talking about? In a sense, what they're saying is right. They heard somewhere somebody did Sakha meditation, went crazy, but that's not Buddhist meditation. You know? They did some strange, I don't know, kind of meditation. That's one. The other one is, they did Buddhist meditation, but they're not ready. Maybe, you know, they had a big problem, you know. They just had a divorce, or business just became bad, or they lost someone here, and then they tried to meditate. And some people, they have a lot of problems, you know. So you can into trouble, even the rest meditation. So we don't simply make people sit for 1 hour right at the beginning. So it's not the meditation that's causing the problem. It is the person. It's just like saying, all sharp instruments are dangerous, all knives are dangerous, knives should be banned. Knives do nothing. We use the knife. So this is the meaning. So people will say meditation is dangerous. You ask them, have you meditated before? Say, oh no, that's why I don't meditate. There is a term for that logic, you know. Right? I mean, you have not experienced it and then you say it's dangerous. Right? This is before the fact. You know? So, you have an example here. Here is again from Alice in Wonderland, but this time it's a different character. This is from Alice to the Looking Glass, page 109. Alice could only look puzzled. She was thinking of the pudding. "You are sad," the knight said in an anxious tone. "Let me sing you a song to comfort you." "Is it very long?" Alice asked, for she had heard a good deal of poetry that day. "It's long," said the knight, "but very, very beautiful. Everybody that hears me sing it, either it brings the tears into their eyes, or else it probably stops." "Or else what?" said Alice, but the knight had made a sudden pause. "Or else it doesn't, you know." The name of the song is called Paddock's Eyes. Paddock is a kind of fish, by the way. "Oh, that's the name of the song, is it?" Alice said, trying to feel interested. "No, you don't understand," the knight said, looking a little vexed. "That's what the name is called." What's the meaning here? This is a little, the writer is playing a little linguistic jokes. Yeah? He just said, that's what it's called. It's not the song. The word is not the thing. I can tell you the title of a song, but you don't hear the song. You got to sing the song. That's the real song. You get the idea? So if I say, I'm a Buddhist, you know, a nice label, you know, I don't keep the precepts, I don't meditate, I'm not kind to people, you know, it's just a label. Right? So being a Buddhist is not a label. It's not statistics. It's what you do with your life. So, in other words, when a non-Buddhist comes to the center and meditates, the moment is meditating anywhere for that matter, or whenever he meditates, is a Buddhist. Whenever we keep the precepts, we are concerned about protecting life and so on, we are not Buddhist. Or for that matter, you can say we are good. Okay? So it's our action, not the label. So stories like this are very useful because they show that it's what you do, not the label. It is meaningful. The word is not the thing. So I don't want to go further because maybe there's some questions here. I'll stop here. We'll continue with question and 10, the next lesson. Any questions? We have a few minutes. Questions?
Here we were talking about words and perception. I just want to mention one thing which is quite common in Singapore. Sometimes when you ask a question, have you done it, or have you got the tickets, or have you done something, the answer is not yes or no. The answer is, I'm so busy today, got so many things to do.
Okay.
Very common. People don't answer your questions directly, and they are always talking what I call on the defensive. So I find this very common among Singaporeans, and so I am mentioning this because when you say certain words, the way it is perceived by the hearer can be quite different. Like instead, like you're making an accusation against him or her, when that is not the case.
Right. Yes, that's true.
But very common. I find it very common.
I think one reason is limited vocabulary. You know, I notice now every culture, if their literature is not strong, the way they talk is going to be very limited. Either yes, no, or neither. Just three choices, you know. And you find the nuances are not there. So they won't sound alike, for example. So there's no way they can express such a way that, yeah, I wanted to buy it, but I somehow couldn't find the time. But if I said it that way, then you begin to understand, oh, yeah, he did try. But the way they say it, you don't know what trouble I'm going to do, kind of village market talk, you know. So that's why you notice those cultures where literature is richer, and in other words, they're able to express a certain emotion, feeling, or idea a bit more clearly and articulately, then you find the communication is more refined, and people are generally happier.
You know, I find that the tendency to explain without answering the question is very, very common.
Okay. Yeah, because
You always want to explain first before you answer.
why do you think they want to explain? Why do you think so?
Like, have you bought the tickets?
Yeah. So
So
what do
I
you
was so
think?
busy, this or that. The answer is no, I haven't bought it.
Yeah.
Then I will ask you, why haven't you bought it? Then I have no time.
Anyone, any idea why you think you are so defensive?
Yes, when you leave, oh, my grandfather came from Rawalpindi, then he moved, and then my grandfather married this and married that. Before answering your question, where do you live? I live at number 3, Jalan Selak. But to get to that answer, they go round and round and round.
No, on the bright literary side, that's what makes your teacher fun, right? It makes us laugh. In a sense, it's good. I suppose it is a communal jokes, so you find that different aspects. But coming back to this point, I think most people are defensive. Instead of trying to say the real thing, they somehow try to defend themselves. Like, don't blame me. So,
And then the intention of the questioner is not to blame. So they miss it really very often.
I think one way is we can reply by saying, clearing his mind, saying, no, actually I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just wondering whether you will take it or not. Because if you don't have it, then I can get it for you. Something like that. So this idea of helping the person is very important. This is learning to communicate. Basically. All right. Any questions or feedback? So basically, don't jump to the conclusion with those same things. Right? If you're not sure, ask people what you mean when you say this. Or you can give reflective feedback. You say, this is what you mean. You say these things. And then usually helps to clarify the situation. Any questions? No more questions, huh? Okay, so we'll end here for today. Let us do a short reflection. Like today we began our study on perception, Saññā, to help us understand better the nature of the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates are important because this is what we are, body and mind, how we think, how our body works. This is the development of wisdom, so that our minds become more open to present, to reality. And as we do this, direct wisdom, we cut down on suffering by understanding the true nature of our actions and the reality around us. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma. By the power of such karma, may we attain mental peace and happiness, even right here in this life. When we meditate, may we focus on good. And above all, by all this goodness we have done, through our various good deeds of keeping to the precepts, meditating, practice of generosity, our interest in studying the suttas and other good deeds, all these good deeds and our faith, the 3 jewels, may we attain spiritual liberation in this life itself, especially by strengthening. At this peaceful moment, to let us send out our loving kindness to all our loved ones, to our friends, even to those inimical to us, that they may come closer to the Dharma.